I'm here with Tony from Wildwood Soundworks.
And what we have here is a digital sequencer and synthesizer. It's got a one-octave keyboard out of an 8-octave range. It's all capacitive touch sensor based, and the touch sensors fit into three categories. We have the one-octave keypad, we have a strum plate, and we also have a chord selector. And so what you can do is you can select a chord here on the chord selector. For example, this is the major type chord. And then you can select the root of the chord over here on the one-octave keyboard. And as you strum the strum plate, you can hear the individual notes in the chord. And so you can create strums with this, playing them individually or in sequence. You can also select a different root and play different chords. You can also change the chord type. For example, minor, major. So that's some of the functions that are available. It's basically a MIDI input and output device. You can connect a MIDI controller to it and use it as a synthesizer for an external MIDI controller like a keyboard, or you can connect it as a MIDI input device to a digital audio workstation. So it has MIDI input and output over USB. You can also read and write standard MIDI files that can be on a micro SD card or on a USB memory stick. There's also internal flash storage that you can use for your MIDI files. It has a built-in web server which you can connect to using Wi-Fi from a standard browser over a Wi-Fi connection. This is the same interface that we see here on the device itself, just larger so that it's easier to interact with. This is MIDI, browser session in full screen. You could minimize it to a smaller window if you had other things going on your screen. It comes with a set of about 60 standard MIDI files that artists have contributed to the public domain. You can access these using the menus. There are 12 levels of menus here. That's our profile menu. I'm going to step through these. That's the pattern generator, where you can generate arpeggios and drum patterns. That's the reverb filter, where you can control about 10 different reverb patterns. Next, we move on to playlists, where you can create playlists, arbitrary number of songs in your playlist that you can play in sequence or shuffled. The next one is our network menu, where you can connect to an external network basically as a station connecting to an external SSID, or you can run this as a totally self-contained network and connect to it from an external station, and that's what we're doing here at the show. The next thing is the file menu, where we can open a song. I'm going to go to one of those demo songs I mentioned earlier. They're on the local device, which is the local flash storage of the device. We'll go to the demo folder, and we'll pick a song out of here, and we can discard the changes from a previous session. We can go back to the piano roll note view, and we can press play. And what we'll see here is the song playing. There are other views as well. There's a song-based view, which shows you all of the different notes in the song as a function of time, plus each of the channel and the current instrument that's assigned to it. And there's also a step-based sequencer. So if you don't want to use the real-time record function, you can encode your notes independently in each of these steps. It supports an arbitrary number of steps, so you can create really, really wonderful compositions. I mentioned before we have the 11 menus. Here are some of the other menus we've got. We have the song and channel menu. This is where you can assign an instrument to a channel. There are 16 channels, and at any one time, there's one instrument assigned to each channel out of a bank of 128 instruments. There's also 56 drum sounds. This is our event menu, and if we press play here on the same song, you'll see the individual MIDI events as they're being played back. And this is our settings menu, where we can set the background and foreground volume, the playback speed, how we want the strum to sound. So right now we're sustaining the strum, so when we press on the individual notes in here, they're sustaining. We can change this so that they release as quickly as we release them. You can also speed up and slow down the audio, so if you want to play along with it, you can do that. Basically, the chords the individual notes that are playing each show up as a different color for each channel here. And so these are the notes in the key of the song, and you can play along with those and produce a really nice accompaniment, especially if you slow it down.
What's the tone generation?
It's a sample-based tone generator, and there are samples for 128 instruments and 56 drum and percussion sounds. It's basically a wavetable synthesizer that uses samples that have been pre-recorded and assigned to these wavetables. It also has support for a number of MIDI control changes, including reverb and let me just interrupt that for a second. And in addition, it's got a 16-channel sequencer, and you can assign one instrument at any time to any of the 16 channels and play them back. It has 32-note polyphonic synthesizer with voice stealing, so if you have a need for more than 32 voices concurrently, it'll take the oldest voice and reuse it. And so it's a great way of expanding the capacity of the music that's generated.
And then you can use this as a controller to control other...
That's right. So this will also work as a MIDI controller. So any of the sounds that are being generated right here through the built-in synthesizer can also be sent over MIDI out to a digital audio workstation or other MIDI input capability on a laptop or a desktop or workstation. And you can take a external MIDI device like a keyboard or controller and plug it in here and use this device as a synthesizer for that external device.
Yeah, that sounds great. So what's the price on it?
The show price on this is $199.99. The device is also available from Etsy anytime for $249.99, but I think we have a really attractive price point on this for the show. It's all handmade. It has a wood base, a hardwood base, and the printed circuit board and all of the assembly soldering is all done in Penn Valley, California, and it's a pretty nice handmade sequencer and synthesizer.
That's great. So how would people, where can they find you? You said Etsy?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me is on my website, which is www.wildwoodsoundworks.com, and or send me email, Tony, at that address. And on that website, there's plenty of information. There's videos, there's a complete description of what this device can do, and there are links to the Etsy entry for it as well.
Great. Thanks, Tony.